Rune Graulund, Associate Professor at the Department for the Study of Culture at the University of Southern Denmark, Odense. Your recent work concerns two themes that are both of great relevance to postcolonial studies today, travel writing and the Anthropocene, and you have also explored ways in which these two concepts connect. Travel writing has often been understood as an important vehicle for empire. Influential work by Said and Louise Pratt has shown that it's been a central pillar in the production of the global South as Europe's uncivilized other. However, your work suggests that there are also other ways to understand this genre and that it can play a different role. How can it do that? And how can it help us to understand the Anthropocene?
Well, I mean, first of all, if you look at sort of traditional travel writing, traditional sort of Eurocentric travel writing, as Pratt and Said are talking about, I mean, certainly there's lots of travel writing out there still that's doing that, which is basically trying to replicate this imperial idea of going from the European centre, London, Paris, whatever, to the periphery and going back to tell about exotic tales. But I think what's been happening in the past 10, 20 years is that, first of all, we're seeing a lot of travel going the other way. I mean, where sort of North America and Europe can also be the exoticized other. And I think it's also because of the shifting power relations. I mean, we've gone from discussions of post-colonialism in the 90s onto discussions about globalization in the noughties and the the past 7 years. So I mean, those things themselves are changing, just because it's no longer so just communication going from or traveling from the center to the periphery and back. The periphery is now also becoming central. I mean, whether it's China, whether it's other Asian countries, the Middle East, Africa now. I mean, where the Chinese are having their own sort of imperial adventures now. That's changing the landscape. And that's also, I mean, we see this politically in the fact that whether it's like nationalism and in America and elsewhere, basically where the center is being challenged about being the center anymore. This is a fear that we're losing power, right? So that in itself is changing the political landscape of travel. And I think the second, and that links to the question of the Anthropocene, is that you can't really do the sort of travel that you could do 100 years ago. You have the white men often going out to the colonial periphery and finding something exotic and going back to describe that to the people at home. First of all, because of globalization, because of global travel, because of technology. We can all go on Google Earth nowadays and go to the Sahara, the outback in Australia and so on, right? So it's been democratized like that, and it's also been popularized, right? It's no longer an elitist pursuit as it used to be. But the second thing is that it's changed because of the Anthropocene. The fact that everything we do, and when we travel, when I sort of rack up my air miles and feel guilty about it, I know that the planet is getting warmer, and it's getting warmer for all of us. So as opposed to, say, Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, which is not, of course, travel writing in the traditional sense, but it's about traveling to the exotic periphery. Nowadays, I mean, when I go traveling on a plane, waters will rise everywhere. It will get much hotter in Congo as it would have been for Kurtz and Marlowe in Heart of Darkness. But we have that story. I mean, in the beginning of the story, we hear Marlowe talking about the river in London, about the River Thames. And I mean, London will drown before Kinshasa will in Africa, right? So it concerns all of us. So that changes how we think about travel. And it changes about how we think about the planet, generally speaking. And that's not to say, I mean, it's still a very sort of skewed picture. I mean, and the questions of imperialism and colonization, going back hundreds of years to Eurocentric perspectives on the world, those are still there and those are still important. I just think to me it seems that the discourse has changed. I mean, we talk about post-colonial issues, but we rarely call them post-colonial anymore. It's about globalizations, it's about the Anthropocene, and so on. So I think that's those are two of the major reasons that we're now talking about something else than post-colonial literature. Or if we're talking about post-colonial literature, we're talking about stuff from the 20th century, I think, not so much the 21st century.